Patrick Johnson Show. It's the Over the River and Through the Woods edition of the PJ Show today. And we got quite an episode for you. Going to talk to Paul Cornwell, the Aiden Grifton football coach, coming up, and a lot more. But we're going to start the show with Doug Martin, one time ECU offensive coordinator, former college football head coach, now with the UFL as a OC. And Coach Martin, been with us all football season, joins us here. All right, Coach, happy Thanksgiving to you and your family. Hope it's an excellent holiday for you this year.
I appreciate it, Patrick. Happy Thanksgiving to you guys. Enjoyed this season with you guys again. It's been fun.
So the interim tag removed from Blake Harrell's resume. He is now the 23rd head coach at ECU. So let's get your reaction to that decision. I mean, they've got Navy this weekend. It's going to be tough on Friday, but you can't deny in a results business, he's 4-0.
Yeah, I don't know Coach Harrell, but I admire what he's done defensively there. He's been a really good defensive coordinator. Obviously, with this move, you get to keep some continuity with some coaches. I just would wonder what's going to be different. You know, what is he going to bring to the table? It's going to be different than Mike Houston, or are you just going to keep on with the Mike Houston era of the way you're playing offense, defense, the whole thing? You got to figure that out. And I think what ECU probably ran into a little bit too was times have changed, Patrick. You know, I was looking at my alma mater, University of Kentucky. Their running back coach was contacted about the head coaching job at Southern Mississippi, and he turned it down because he makes $1.2 million a year at Kentucky. And he'd have to take a pay cut to go be the head coach at Southern Mississippi. So I think what Group of Five teams are finding out is guys aren't going to leave power conference jobs, even as assistants, to go be head coaches at Group of Five jobs now. So I don't know. There's a lot of things there at work. I wish him the best. I think he's a really good coach, and obviously I'm an ECU fan, so I hope they have a lot of success with him.
You know, I think a lot of what he has done is maybe things aren't as structured and formal. All the meetings. I mean, I'm not saying that it's a free for all, but I mean, I don't think there's meetings on top of meetings on top of meetings. I think
Yeah.
maybe both sides of the ball are maybe congregating a little more the night before in the hotel. We hear things like that. That's
Yeah.
the other
Well, I
thing
think
too. Yeah,
Patrick, one thing I would say before you leave that is, you got to think, why did they let Mike Houston go? And in my opinion, this is my opinion, I haven't talked to anybody. I would say it's because of the lack of success against in-state schools. You hadn't beaten Appy State, hadn't beaten, Charlotte. There's a lot of that going on. So
NC
I
State.
think
Yeah.
that's where Blake Harrell's got to come up with some answers about how to get past that and become the premier school in the state again. And I think that's where his challenge is going to be. And they're not going to play an easier schedule than they had this year. I mean, they had the most plumb schedule in all of college football this year. And next year it's NC State, BYU. You're getting back to the typical East Carolina schedule. So there's going to be some difficulties, if you don't manage it the right way.
Yeah, Coastal in there in the non-con next year as well. So I mean, it's a pretty formidable pre-conference schedule for ECU. No, I was just going to say, um, to your point, if times are changing, Harrell, he's not considerably younger than Mike Houston. Coach Houston is kind of an old school guy in a way, defensive mindset first. Um, I think, look, it's not all about fun. But, I think it is a little bit of a less pressure-filled environment. I think there was a lot of pressure hovering over the program with Mike Houston for whatever reason. So, my question to you would be, do you have to have a special skill set in this day and age with the athlete? That's kind of what I was, in a roundabout way wanting to ask you. I mean, because that's even
Well,
changed much more than anything, isn't it? I mean, the athlete has different, right or wrong, expectations.
yeah, I think particularly in college football right now, you could say that because now the players are being paid, they're being treated more like professional athletes. It's not recruiting anymore. I'm so tired of hearing people say, "Oh, he's a great recruiter." It doesn't matter if you're a great recruiter. You're buying players now. It has nothing to do with recruiting anymore. It has to do with who's got the biggest checkbook. and that's been proven all across the country. So, yeah, I think that's probably certainly true. I mean, you can look at NFL teams and certain people have more success. Harbaugh going to San Diego. He's got Los Angeles Chargers. He's kind of changed the mentality and the atmosphere there to be a little bit looser, a little bit more player friendly, and they're having success with that. Some guys though they go in loose like that and they don't have success. So I think it's about the people you surround yourself with. First of all, as a head coach, you got to surround yourself with people that are very loyal to you, that you're all getting moving in the same direction. And, the players just have to know that you've got something that they want. They got to know that you're going to make them a better player. As long as they respect you, and I learned this in the professional football that I've been doing. If they don't respect you, they will eat you alive because it's their paycheck on the line. So if they respect you, they'll do anything in the world for you. And I think that's true of college or professional coaching either way.
Got Coach Doug Martin with us here on the Patrick Johnson Show, and Caden Hauser. Let's evaluate his performance against North Texas. Throws an interception early. Pirates have a couple of turnovers in that game early. But he comes back, throws a couple of touchdowns in the second half. But the run game got ginned up, and that really has helped Hauser's cause. But as you're tracking his evolution, what did you see out of Hauser, if anything, that was different or certainly something you liked that you saw last week against North Texas and Denton?
Well, I mean, he was obviously better than the week before. We had the couple of interceptions thrown. He made better decisions. North Texas honestly was horrible in the secondary. I don't think I've seen a worse secondary than the way those guys played. But hey, East Carolina took advantage of it. They did what you're supposed to do when you play a team like that. When they have a weakness, you exploit it. And I think he's got good skill set physically. He's got a good arm. He's got nice anticipation. What you're going to have to find out about him is, again, I keep going back to the strength of schedule and who they played. You're going to have to find out what he can do when they're playing really competent teams. When they're playing, teams that are winning programs, what's it going to look like then? But he has certainly steadied the ship and he's made them a better offense.
They're going to get a crack at it this week with Navy. We'll talk about that in a second. But I just wanted to ask you, too, about Rajay Harris running the football. Back-to-back 100-yard games for him, and he's had 5 touchdowns the last 2 games. And he has seemingly gotten stronger as the season has gone on. And you kind of expect that out of guys who've been in the program for a while. But in the running back position, that's kind of unique to see. That a back would finish as strong as they are finishing.
Yeah, I think the passing game getting better is helping the running game. Obviously, when you have to defend the pass, obviously you get people out of the box. It creates some avenues for you to run the ball a little bit more effectively. And I've said all year, Patrick, I don't think East Carolina has a talent problem. I think they have had a scheme problem early on in the season where they weren't really doing the right things to make the offense better. But they've kind of fixed that a little bit, and they're playing a little bit better on offense. But I don't think they have talent problem. I think they've got good wide receivers. I think they've got the quarterback playing well. They've had good running backs all along. They could be a bright future for them coming up.
If you're Coach Harrell, and you've already had to start thinking about this, what's the first thing on your agenda as far as, because I mean, essentially the offseason starts 3:35, 4 o'clock on, or next season starts, on Friday afternoon. As soon as that Navy game goes all final, you got a bowl game, but you're essentially closing the book on this season, and everything you're geared towards goes towards bowl recruiting for next year, retention. So what would you prioritize if you're him looking ahead?
Well, in terms of the players, you've got to have a meeting with all these guys and find out who's coming back, who's looking to leave, who's going to transfer portal, all those things. So every college coach has to do that now, and those are one-on-one meetings you've got to have with players, and obviously target the ones that are really good players that you want to keep, and make sure you have a way to entice them to stay. I think the interesting thing is probably going to be the staff. What does he do with the coaching staff? Is he going to keep everybody that's there? Is he going to make some changes? Does he want the defense to look a little bit different? Does he want the offense to look a little bit different? Where is that going to go? Or is it just going to keep going the same way that they're doing right now. I don't know that you'll know that until after the bowl game because I wouldn't think he'd want to disrupt that before that time. But he's going to have to evaluate that, and because I just know as a head coach, it's important that you have your own people around you, people that you trust and you're loyal to you, and that you feel comfortable with.
Is as far as signing day, I mean that comes at such a weird time now, and then you got the portal and then bowl preps. It's all of these things happening at one time with NIL, with whatever is just the day to day problem, but or problems that come with being a head coach and issues and decisions that you have to make. Um, how do you balance the bowl prep side of that though? Because I mean, it is a reward for the players, and I firmly think that's how it's going to be treated. They're going to treat this as it's still a business trip, but I mean, this is the reward for the season that the seniors and the players have earned.
Yeah, I will say this for you about bowl games, Patrick. It is miserable losing a bowl game. I'll promise you, it is. There's something really bad about losing a bowl game, and I've been on both sides of it. And there's times where you win a bowl game, and it really propels you into some great things. Um, I just I think this bowl game, wherever they play, whoever they play, is important for them to go win this game. It'll really springboard them and their team. If they don't, it's really going to put even more of a downer on this season and the changes they've gone through. So you want to reward the players, you want them to have a good time with it, but players need to understand. You need to preach to them that you're going to remember this game. I mean, that winning this game is important for you.
Its own challenge, and when you look at the midshipmen, I mean, this is a step up in competition from what ECU has faced the last four games. Let's just be honest, call it what it is.
Yeah,
So I'm
yeah.
not saying this is the barometer, this is the harbinger of things to come, but I mean, this is going to give us a pretty good idea, I think, of against some adverse situations. A lot of distractions this week. It's a holiday week. No classes at a certain
Mhm.
point this week. A lot of end of the year project stuff with academics, family in town, senior weekend. Um, you name it. Short week. Navy's coming in off a bye week. So I mean, there's a lot of things here that maybe aren't going necessarily in ECU's favor per se.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I don't think losing this game is not a detriment or a negative to the coaching staff or anything like that. But it is a step up. I mean, they've really. I mean, let's be honest. They've really played some bad football teams the last 4 weeks, and I don't think any of those teams have a winning record. So this is going to be a better football team coming in here. Navy's going to be well coached. They're going to be tough. They're going to be physical. You have to defend the option. Obviously, you're going to have to score points and stay on the field offensively to help your defense. So all those things are going to come into play. But it's a great opportunity for East Carolina to do just that, to beat a team that's got a winning record and has played a little bit better this year, and to prove that they've got things moving in the right direction. So the Friday game is they're on a short week, and Navy has had the week off. That is an advantage for Navy. But they've already played Army and kind of got a feel for how they want to defend the option and things like that too. So they'll be able to look back on that and help them a little bit.
Brian Newberry, to his credit, realized, okay, we need to do something different offensively, and he went out and they got Coach Cronic, who I forget if he was at Mercer, but anyway, he was running this offense and
Mhm.
kind of just turned it over to him to call things offensively. So they're majority option, majority run, but they're doing some other things out of it if their quarterback's healthy and that kind of thing. And I got to imagine that's even more of a nightmare now to deal with him if you're a defensive coordinator or defensive coaches, because they can do some more things out of this offense now.
Yeah, anytime you can run a little bit of option or some option and throw the ball, just throw the ball successfully. You don't have to throw it 20 times a game, but if you can throw it, 10 to 15 times a game as an option team and throw it effectively, that really becomes a headache. If it's just strictly option and you really don't have a passing game at all, then it's a lot easier to defend. So Navy has done a nice job. They've got a great tradition there, been going for quite a while, winning football and the way they play, and they have a structure that they've stuck with. Defensively, they're a really well coached team, much better than what East Carolina has seen. Now, East Carolina's going to have a talent advantage. They're going to have more speed than Navy is on the field, but they're going to play a better coached defense than what they played the last couple of weeks.
All right. Well, that is it on the Pirates. We're going to hit a break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about some more college football that will be coming your way. And we will do that on the Patrick Johnson Show right after this. Doug Martin with us here. He's been great all season with us, and it's always great to catch up with Coach. Big reaction anytime we have him on. Coach, let me ask you this before we get into some games here. We've been asking guests for the different shows this all week. I mean, it's the most penetrating question I can think of. But what is the go-to dish for you on Thanksgiving?
Oh man! Well, when you're talking dessert, it's the pecan pie. I gotta have that. But now I will say this: my wife makes just about everything is pretty good. So the stuffing is awesome. The turkey's always awesome, and we've done the turkeys a different ways. Deep fried them and all those type of things. And I don't think you can screw Thanksgiving up, man. There's always something good there for somebody.
Your Kentucky Wildcats, your alma mater. 143 years of football. The most storied, of course, were the 4 you were there. Or was it 5?
Yeah.
Anyway, the time you were there, most storied.
I was going to say, obviously, you never saw me play, but go ahead.
But 143 years of playing football, that's a long time. I read something on the World Wide Web, so it has to be true. The trip to Austin is the furthest west Kentucky's ever traveled to play a football game.
Really? I did not know that. That's
yes.
amazing.
That is kind of strange, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm trying to think back when I played there. I know we played at Kansas. We played at Kansas State. But you know what? I don't remember going any farther than that. So that could be true.
I think from mileage from Lexington, it's the furthest west they've been. And again, that's what the World Wide Web said. So,
well, it's got to be true.
The big story this week in North Carolina, outside of Blake Harrell getting hired, Mack Brown getting told you should have just retired and gone out on your own terms. We're not bringing you back. So Mack Brown out at UNC.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of respect for Mack Brown. He's won a lot of games there and all that, but not to be political, but this is the Joe Biden of college football right now. I mean, he was kind of showed that you're not running anymore. So I think that's where we are with that one, and I think that's the right move for North Carolina. I mean, it's they need some new ideas. They need some fresh blood in there to get things established. I mean, they've got more talent than probably almost any ACC team, Patrick, but there's always something that holds them back. They're a little bit of a soft program. I've mentioned this before. We felt like that when I was coaching East Carolina. That, there's something soft about them. When it gets tough, when things get physical, they don't want to play. And it's been that way for a while. And I think they need somebody to infuse just a different mentality into that program for it to reach the potential that it has, because they really should be in the top 3 in the conference every year.
Do you think they're willing to do that, though? I mean, do you think Bubba Cunningham and the administration there is willing to bring in a football guy that's really going to change the culture?
Well, that is probably the $1 million question, because they really have not done that successfully in the past. It's always been, I don't want to say a gimmick, but it's been a little bit more of a finesse coach, a finesse team, especially offensively. There's not really been anybody there that's gotten them into a physical nature of playing the game. Like Frank Beamer did when he was at Virginia Tech. You knew you were going to play. You knew you were going to get hit. It was going to be a physical game. That's just the way it's going to be. NC State has had that. So, yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. And Steve Logan and I were talking last week, Patrick, and I mean, he made a great point. And people need to look at this. Over the last probably 10, maybe 15 years, really the most consistent and best football teams in the state has been Wake Forest and Duke. And that's amazing when you think about it. But when you think about the winning and the number of bowl games and the physical nature they played and the consistency that they've had, those teams have been more consistent than UNC and NC State combined. So I mean, it's really interesting just to look at that, as an outside perspective. I never thought about that until Steve and I were talking about the other day.
So they've got the Wolfpack this weekend. Is this win one for the Gipper? State's got to have it to get bowl eligible. How do you see that one playing out?
Well, there's an old adage in coaching now, but tell you, you fire the coach, they always win the next game. I mean, it's undefeated. You can, you can bank on it, man. It is the only time it didn't happen. It was, I think, didn't FAU played who Tulsa last week, and they both got fired, so
Yeah.
somebody had to screw it up, right? So there's only one team could win. But yeah, I mean, it's amazing how that happens. So yeah, I mean, UNC will play hard. NC State needs this game for a bowl. Um, there's no telling what could happen in this game. Now that you're paying players and they're all looking for the next paycheck and they're all looking to get in the transfer portal, you don't know who's going to play hard in this game and who's not, and who's looking, ahead, just trying to get out and all that type of stuff. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes. I do think that quarterback at NC State, the freshman quarterback, is
Mm-hmm.
going to be
Bailey.
special. I
Yeah.
would be very excited if I was an NC State fan going into next season, because if that kid with a year under his belt, next year they could be one of the premier programs in the ACC if they play a little bit of defense again, get back to where they were defensively, because I think that quarterback can make them really good.
So, a few other games this weekend that are kind of interesting or worth noting potentially. Um, One that I think could be interesting: Georgia Tech at Georgia. The Ramblin' Wreck have any kind of chance against Georgia Friday night?
They do, because they're a really well coached football team. I've said that numerous times here on your show, and they do one of the best jobs coaching of anybody in the ACC, because they do not have the talent that Clemson has, that some of these other schools have, Miami, and they find ways to play with them and beat them, and they do a great job. In Georgia, as we all know, they've kind of been up and down. Now Georgia's played one of the toughest schedules in the nation, and this is doesn't make it any easier finishing with Georgia Tech, but they have been up and down a little bit. The quarterback's been inconsistent, so that'll be a brawl between those two.
I also look at for Saturday, Michigan and Ohio State. Of course, strange things happen in that game, but I mean that should be all Buckeyes in Columbus, should it not?
It should. I mean, Michigan has really fallen off. Ohio State's playing for a lot, and they're playing really well right now. Just had a big win against Indiana last week, and kind of thought that was going to happen. Indiana really hasn't played anybody all year, so yeah, I would think Ohio State would handle them.
Um, the game of Saturday might be South Carolina Clemson.
That'll be an interesting game to watch, and I really would tend to lean towards South Carolina in that game, just because every time Clemson plays a physical defense that can kind of match up with them, they struggle offensively, and they run up their numbers when they play bad teams, so their stats all look really good. But when you go back and you look this season, and almost any season, when they play a really tough physical defensive football team, it's a different game for them. So unless they really change that, trait, then I think South Carolina has a great chance to win this game.
Another interesting game Saturday, also in that noon window. Duke going for 9 wins at Wake Forest.
Yeah, a great job by Manny Diaz at Duke. I mean, he came there in the first year and kept something going that Mike Elko had started, but he put his stamp on it and got them playing a little bit better offensively. So they're scoring points. They've got an electric quarterback that can make plays. He's done a great job. Wake, yeah, man, had a tough year with injuries, and they've been close in a lot of games and just haven't been able to get over the hump. So this will be a great way for them to finish out and start for next year. But they're a really well coached team. Also, Dave Clawson does a great job there too. But I think Duke obviously has a little bit of an advantage in this one, mainly because of the quarterback position.
Duke had no offensive line, too, practically in spring ball. I think they had maybe 4 or 5 guys that played offensive line
Yeah.
or were healthy or something. I mean, it's kind of crazy
Well,
what
that's the
what
age
they've
of the
accomplished.
portal, right? You can
Yeah.
change a team in 1 year with that portal, and you get the right guy. If you get the right guys, you can change it.
You referenced Tulsa has had an opening there. I don't think there's a lack of money at Tulsa institutionally. It's a private school. I understand they travel pretty well in everything they do, and they put some money into stuff. So, what do you need to have? What kind of we talked about some of these coaching openings in the American. When you look at Tulsa, what kind of candidate would you say needs to be brought into a place like that to have some football success?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. When you look at Tulsa's NIL money, I can tell you this: they had over $3 million in NIL money, and I'm not exactly sure what East Carolina's was totally, but I don't think it was close to that. So they've got some resources there um, to be a good football program because they can go out and get players. It is a really strong academic school, so it's kind of in the vein of Duke and Wake. You got to get the right player there. You can't just, and where that really hurts them is the transfer portal, Patrick.
Sure.
They could
Yeah.
get transfers, but they still got to get in school, and they still got to survive that. So the pool is a little bit smaller for them. So I think hiring someone that has an understanding of that, maybe somebody that has a background from a Stanford, a Northwestern, a Wake, a Duke, those type of places that understands how, Boston College was like that when I was coaching there too. Somebody that understands that environment and how to work around those issues, because you still got to get players to win. Doesn't matter how good of a coach you are. I've never seen a jackass win the Kentucky Derby. It's always a thoroughbred, right? So you got you got to have players. You got to have players to win football games. I don't care how good of a coach you are.
That's another one. I've used your one about you look good enough to bury that you told me. When we did this segment, I had a tie on, so I've used that one a couple times. But anyway, last thing here for you. Thanks for the time as always. This is it's just a thrill to talk to you, and I appreciate you doing this all season. Um, DeBoer in Alabama. I mean, he didn't matter what he did this year. It was going to be hard to live up to
Yeah.
Saban. So
Well, just look at his history. This guy has won everywhere he's been. He's been a phenomenal coach at every stop, and I think he didn't. I think he either tied or he's broken the record for the most wins in a first-year Alabama coach, even this year. Now, I know
yeah.
they haven't, gotten where they wanted to be with the playoffs and all that type of stuff, but taking over a pressure cooker like that and following a legend in Nick Saban, it was going to be hard no matter what. But they hired the right guy, and they will win a lot of football games and they'll win some championships with him. I don't know him at all. I have no relationship with him at all, but I know what he has done and where he's been. It's just been phenomenal each step, and I just believe he'll do the same thing at Alabama.
Coach, enjoy your Thanksgiving. We really appreciate it.
Hey, I appreciate it, guys. You guys have a great one, and have a great New Year.
Have you noticed he's in his own little happy hour? We're back to the Patrick Johnson Show on 94.3 The Game.
This is the Happy Hour program.
Here's the P-Man.
High school football, and when you are playing at Thanksgiving, it is a successful season. Even if they push the playoffs back a week, still a successful season if you're practicing on Thanksgiving. That's what the Aiden Grifted Chargers will be doing. Their head coach, Paul Cornwell. Always great to talk to him. Got a lot of things to touch base with him about. But, Coach, happy Thanksgiving. Congratulations. Let's start with the big question. What's the Thanksgiving side dish that's your go-to?
I'm a big stuffing guy. So, and it really doesn't matter what kind of stuffing. I'm kind of open to any of them. So I'm definitely a stuffing guy.
I got you. Well, hey, you can't go wrong. And it's as I think it was Doug Martin said, you can't screw up Thanksgiving. So
yeah,
you
absolutely.
really have to
just
try
throw it out there. All of it's good.
So, boy, kind of old hat for you. You've done this before, but first time since you returned that you guys have endeavored this far into the postseason. Man, what a run you guys were on. You played a really tough pre-conference schedule, but you kind of caught fire in league play. What was the turning point in the season for you?
I think probably the biggest. We played some tough games early that were pretty close, and we got a big win at West Craven in our first conference game, and I think that really kind of gave us some confidence to know that we were kind of had that mindset change where we knew we could compete in conference, and I think that was really kind of a big starting point for us.
Kinston is the opponent Friday night. It'll be in Littlefield, as it'll be AG taking on the Kinston Vikings. So a couple of old conference mates meeting there. I want to ask you a little bit about, when you look at this season, I think having a quarterback at any level of football is so big. And you guys have Nate Brooks transferred in, and maybe it took him a little while to get in sync with what you guys wanted to do offensively. But it seemed like, too, and again, this is just me kind of from the outside looking in, Coach, that you guys started to maybe start to play towards his strengths a little bit.
Yeah, I think, with him coming in a little later, he was with us for a part of the summer, and kind of figuring him out and what works best for him, I think had a lot to do with that. And then how we were going to kind of build the passing game around his strengths. And, and then obviously being able to build a run game to go with it has
Sure.
really helped because, that takes some pressure off of that. So I think it all kind of fits together. Our offensive line is young. They evolved over the course of the season as well. So I think, definitely having Nate come in, and then once we kind of figured out how the best way to make it work for him, and we were able to build some things around it, it definitely helped us as far as our passing game throughout the season. And Nate's had a great year for us.
Paul Cornwell's with us, Aiden Grifton coach. They will host the Kinston Vikings Friday night, 7 o'clock. Hope a lot of folks will go out and root on one of our Pitt County teams still cruising along in the postseason. They and Rose are the two remaining teams still playing football. And you lost at Kinston by 4 earlier in the year in what was a really hard-fought game. When you look back at that game, where did it break to not finish in your direction?
Well, special teams, I think one of the big things, we didn't do a great job of covering kicks, and Kinston had a kickoff return for a score and then had another kickoff return that set up a score. So that was 2 huge plays in that game. We really hadn't established our running game at that point. We were still kind of a work in progress on the offensive line. So there were a lot of things that were very different then than kind of what we've evolved to throughout the season. But Kinston still has the same athletes out there running those kicks back. So we've got to do a great job of covering that. So that, but that was one of the big things that happened in that game. But there's 2 pretty evenly matched teams. They just made more plays in special teams. It kind of was the difference.
When you look at the Edenton Holmes game, it was pretty nip and tuck. They may have even been ahead at halftime, if I recall.
They
Holmes,
were.
but I mean, it was a tight game. In the second half, what adjustments were made, or is it a case of you guys just started executing the game plan?
I thought that give credit to Edenton. They came in with a really good plan defensively. They kind of kept us off balance. Giving us some different looks, and it took us a little while to kind of find our rhythm. We made some mistakes with some penalties that we hadn't been making. Sometimes, kids are in the playoffs for the first time. They get a little tight and things. But, I think that had a lot to do with it as well. But in the second half, we kind of settled down. We got our run game going, and that kind of opened up everything else. And I thought our defense really played one of our best games of the season, running against the triple option. And what they do is they're really good at it. And I thought our defense kept us in the game until our offense kind of found its footing in the second half. So it was definitely a team win. We had a big field goal, so special teams, our coverage units. We pinned them down inside the 10 a couple times on punt teams. So, it's a little bit of everything that kind of plays into that.
I want to ask you something about some more football. Paul Cornwell, head coach Aiden Grifton, they're playing in the 3rd round of the playoffs Friday night as they will take on Kinston. The flag football team has been established there. It's a league that Pitt County, also Beaufort and Craven have all kind of put together. I think it's fantastic. How much fun has that been for you?
It's been a lot of fun, really. When we started talking about it last winter, that the counties were looking at bringing this in, and other counties, Raleigh and Charlotte and areas like that, it kind of started it last year, and Coach Skinner, our athletic director, came to me and just said, "Hey, what do you think about coaching flag football?" And I was like, "Oh, sure, that sounds like fun." And we really didn't know what all would go into it, but the Carolina Panthers are sponsoring that, and really help provide a lot of the equipment and the uniforms and all that stuff. So we really haven't had any investment financially. And when we started letting people know, the girls were coming out of the woodwork, and we actually had to have tryouts, and we had to have cuts because you can only carry so many. I think
Oh, wow.
I think around 15 or 16. So. And I don't know if all the schools had to do that or not. I know we did. We probably had well over 30 try out. But we picked a good group, and we played well. I think through the first 2 weekends, we're 5-1. So it's been a lot of fun, and they're running the same stuff that we run. So some of the past concepts they're running are exactly what we run. It's 7-on-7, so that's what we do. So it's there's probably 2 or 3 past concepts that they run that are exactly the same thing the boys run. So they're learning defensive coverages and how to play zone and all those kind of things. So they're having a lot of fun with it, and we are too.
That's awesome. Has there been a learning curve of the game, or were these pretty savvy players to begin? Because, obviously what you guys run is sort of ingrained over time with the guys. So, how steep was the learning curve, clearly to the offense and the schemes, but also just knowledge, product knowledge, rules knowledge, game knowledge?
Well, it helps to have a quarterback. If you've got somebody who can throw the ball, that certainly helps. And we do. Cheyenne Forbes is our catcher on the softball team. She's a 3-time conference player of the year. So she's a pretty established athlete here, and she can throw it. And we have some of our volleyball team obviously had a great year. We've got several of those girls playing. And so athletically, we've got a lot of good young talent that they'll go out there and they compete. They know how to compete. But as far as the game itself, the learning curve, you're right. There's some things, spacing, learning how to run routes. All those things are things that are still a work in progress. There are times where it looks really good, and then there's times where it all just kind of runs together. But there's a lot of focus. They want to do well. They want to win. So we've had practices. They come to the practices. We practice after our practices some, and it's just been really good. It's been a lot of fun, and they have a high expectation. When they don't play well, they get upset, and we're excited about continuing that season as well, and we'll go into about the middle of December, I think, with that.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. And would your assumption be that this is a sport that the association will adopt as a sponsored sport?
I think it will. Honestly, I kind of like it the way it is because we get an opportunity to get a lot of kids from different sports involved. If it goes to a season, we really don't know what that'll look like because we've got softball girls, we've got basketball, we got girls that are playing basketball right now that are playing flag with us on the weekends. And then the volleyball girls. So I like the way it is right now because I think it gives us a lot of flexibility, but I do think it will evolve into an official sport.
Let me ask you your plans for Thanksgiving with the team. How do you practice this week? and prepare for the Friday game. You've done it before, so you know. But
Yeah.
what's the game plan for the Chargers on Thanksgiving?
Well, we'll come in. We're going to practice at 8 a.m. on Thursday. We're going to have a team breakfast at 9, so we'll have our walkthrough, and then we'll have our team breakfast, which is kind of a tradition that we've done, and most teams do on that Thanksgiving day. We'll get them out of here by 10 o'clock, and then Friday we're going to bring them in early. We're going to have a quick lunch, and then we're actually going to go over to ECU and watch the first half, at least the first half of the ECU Navy game as a team, and then we'll come back in time to be ready for our pregame meal and go into more of a normal schedule. So traditionally we would bring them in and maybe watch a movie or do something like this, but it worked out that we would be able to go over and go watch the game together. So that would be something different that we haven't done before, but with the noon kickoff, I think that would work out. It'll work out pretty good for us.
Pretty cool stuff. Hey, Coach, one of my favorites. Always great to talk to you. Congratulations. Happy you guys have had the season you've had so far, and I hope it continues for you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me, Patrick.
All right, thanks to Paul Cornwell there. Programming note as far as our coverage of the high school postseason goes, Rose will be right here on 94.3 The Game on Friday. The ECU basketball game will air exclusively on 107.9 WNCT. So Pirate Hoops there, Rose football with a 6:50 airtime and a 7 o'clock kick in the third round of the playoffs with Croft Massey and RV. We're taking a timeout, and we'll come back to wrap this up. It's the Over the River and Through the Woods edition of the Patrick Johnson Show.
And now, the stunning conclusion of the show. It's the P-Man here on 94.3 The Game.
Weeks are always the longest ones, aren't they? It's been a heck of a week. Nice to have you with us, Patrick Johnson Show. Hope you have a happy Thanksgiving. Pilk, favorite Thanksgiving dish?
Well,
what is it?
Well, just the dish itself, just anything to eat on Thanksgiving's the skin of a fried turkey is the best.
Oh,
but
call.
Yeah, mashed potatoes and gravy would be the side.
That's right. You told me this. Have I asked you this already?
Yeah, we talked about this Monday. Yeah.
Boy, that seems like it was about 8 days ago.
It does.
Actually, about 8 months ago now. What a week. Of course, everything made official today with Blake Harrell, and congratulations to him, 23rd coach in ECU football history. And we'll see. I don't think that Friday needs to be one way or the other how we think this thing's going to go long term. Are there questions? Sure, absolutely there's questions. And is Blake Harrell the right man for the job? God, I hope so. But, I mean, we will find out. He could have done worse. I know that. Have done worse. But to me, I think that, if the Pirates, Navy's tough. The Pirates don't beat them. That doesn't mean that, oh, well, look, we're going to really struggle next year against a better schedule. We beat Navy, that doesn't mean Blake Harrell's going to stay undefeated forever. It'd be great if he did. But I think you got to kind of take all of this in stride. Celebrate the fact that it's been a good couple of days and enjoy the fact that we're looking at an encouraging future with football. Even going into this year, I didn't think it was an encouraging future necessarily. And the weight of all of that, I think, weighed this team down, to be quite honest. Blake has been a breath of fresh air. Coach Harrell, I guess we should say, has been a breath of fresh air. So, yeah, that's, to me, the kind of read on everything that's gone down today. It was great to have Doug Martin on and great to have Paul Cornwell on. And I hope you'll get out as you can and not only watch the Pirates on Friday afternoon. I really hope there's a representative crowd there. I'm not going to be naive to think there's going to be a sellout or anything like that, but I do think there should be a good crowd there because the stuff that people that, oh, I'm not going to the game because, well, they're winning. They didn't hire the coach I wanted. Well, okay. Those two things, from what I can gather, that a lot of people have complained about are being done. So, get out. It's going to be a little chilly. It's going to be football weather. Why not? Great opponent. Should be a good game. Looking forward to it on Saturday. We will be on, Friday. We will be on the air at 9 a.m. Friday with our Anson Belt and Buckle Pirate Game Day Countdown. It is presented by Orthopedics East. 9 a.m. Myself, Joey Football, Philip the Ref, Pilkington. And we'll have the matchup for you between the Pirates and the midshipmen right here. Would it be a troll job if Navy wore the Jolly Roger uniforms that they're planning
maybe
to wear
a little
for
bit.
Army?
Yeah. I think it would be, yeah. Navy's not a team who trolls, though. They wouldn't do it.
I understand.
It would be, yeah.
Would it be a bigger troll job on the Pirates or on Army?
Oh, on the Pirates.
Because then you're saying, well, we released these for Army, but we decided to wear them against the ECU. Here are the real uniforms we're wearing against Army.
There you go.
They could double troll.
Yeah.
They could double troll there. But then Army's got the ultimate troll job on Navy. We're playing the week before we play you guys for a championship.
They are. Chance to go to the college football playoff if everything falls their way.
Yeah, a lot would have to
State
happen.
there somewhere.
Yeah, got to see what happens with Boise. We will see. Tulane's also in a spot where who knows what could happen with them. All right. Heck of a week. Still got more to go. See you on the pregame show, 9 a.m. Friday. See you on ESPN Plus Friday afternoon at 5:30 for basketball, ECU and North Carolina A&T. Thanks to Philip the Ref Pilkington, everybody back at the Radio Ranch, our great guest today and throughout the week. And we will be back with you Monday with the PJ Show.